Shall Not Be Infringed, The Eternal Shield of Liberty by Josh White. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. In the age of sound bites and social manipulation, the Second Amendment has become the most misrepresented, misquoted, and misunderstood provision in the United States Constitution. But when stripped of modern distortions, it stands as an unbreakable shield between a free people and the slow, creeping hand of tyranny. This is not a permission slip. It is a restriction on government. This is not a relic. It is a warning label. This is the line in the sand, and it is written in ink. Welcome to Shall Not Be Infringed, the Eternal Shield of Liberty. Before the ink dried on the Constitution, a rift had formed. The Federalists believed the Constitution's limited powers needed no clarification. The Anti-Federalists knew better. George Mason refused to sign the Constitution. Not out of rebellion, but out of principle. Without a Bill of Rights, he warned, the government would forget its place. And so, 10 amendments were born, not to grant rights, but to recognize them. The Bill of Rights isn't a checklist of privileges. It's a wall, a barricade, and the Second Amendment is the keystone holding it up. Where did these rights come from? Not from parchment or presidents, but from nature, from reason, and from your Creator. Yes, you heard that right, your Creator, codified into the First Amendment. The founders embraced natural rights theory, as articulated by John Locke and others. Life, liberty, and property were not gifts from government, but conditions of human existence. If you have the right to life, then you must have the right to defend it. If you have the right to liberty, then you must be free to resist enslavement. And if you have the right to property, then you must have the means to protect it. The Second Amendment is the codification of that reality. Today, when we hear the phrase well-regulated, we tend to think of, red tape and bureaucratic oversight. But back in the 18th century, it actually meant something much simpler. It was more about being in good working order. For example, a well-regulated clock in our founding era wasn't one regulated by the government. It was one that was well-maintained to keep accurate time. A well-regulated militia was one that functioned effectively. It did not mean government-controlled, it meant capable. I pulled quotes straight from newspapers of the time. They talk about a well-regulated citizenry, a well-regulated press, a well-regulated oxen plough, well-regulated diets, well-regulated wardrobes, well-regulated markets, well-regulated homesteads, even well-regulated family units. A well-regulated diet, being necessary to secure an individual's healthy state, the right of the people to keep and grow food, shall not be infringed. Which one has the right to keep and grow food, the diet or the people? Isn't it weird that the Second Amendment is the only sentence in the English language that the left has tried to convince us doesn't apply to the rules of the English language? Prefatory clause. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, this is the justification, not a condition, not a limitation. It explains why the following right exists. It's like saying because fire extinguishers are necessary to stop fires, people have the right to own one. Notice, that doesn't mean only fire departments can have extinguishers, it just gives a rationale. Operative clause. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the commanding part, the meat of the amendment. The subject, the right of the people. The action shall not be infringed. Everything hinges on this part, not the prefatory fluff the left loves to obsess over. The prefatory clause doesn't limit the operative clause, it supports it. And no other right in the Bill of Rights has to justify itself this way. You don't see the First Amendment saying, because preachers exist, the people may occasionally speak their mind, but only in church. That'd be insane, but that's exactly the logic they try to impose on the Second. The meaning was consistent, well-functioning, well-prepared, not government-restricted. So when the Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia, it simply means a capable, equipped citizenry. Not a government army, not the National Guard. You, me, the people. The founders were clear. The militia is the people. It wasn't some elite force, it wasn't reserved for the wealthy or the military. It was every able-bodied citizen armed and ready to defend the Republic. The militia clause wasn't a qualifier, it was an explanation. The operative clause is the right of the people to keep and bear arms. The militia context was just that, context. Some folks say the founders couldn't have envisioned modern firearms, but honestly that's just historical ignorance. In 1718, James Puckle patented a gun with a rotating cylinder, a sort of primitive machine gun. In 1776, Major Patrick Ferguson's breech-loading rifle could fire 7 rounds per minute, and the Girardoni air rifle carried by Lewis and Clark held a 22-round magazine. They weren't just aware of technological advancement, they actually anticipated it. These were Enlightenment minds, scientists, tinkerers. They didn't freeze time in 1787. They wrote a safeguard that could evolve with it. The Constitution is really a charter of enumerated powers. If a power isn't listed, well, the federal government just doesn't have it. Nowhere does it say Congress can limit the Bill of Rights. Nowhere does it allow for the chilling of speech or the disarming of citizens. The 9th and 10th Amendments, they seal the deal. The enumeration shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Powers not delegated are reserved to the states or to the people. The Second Amendment cannot be infringed, not because it's trendy, but because it is structurally protected. From Marbury versus Madison to Heller, the courts have, danced around the Second Amendment, but even the judiciary knows it was never about muskets, it was about freedom. As Thomas Jefferson once said, laws that forbid the carrying of arms disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes. The founders, they just didn't trust government. That's really why the Bill of Rights exists. And the Second Amendment, it's the firewall. They say it's about hunting. They say it's outdated. They say we can't own AR-15 rifles. They say common sense regulation. But honestly, every word of that is propaganda. The Second Amendment isn't about deer. It's about defense, not just from criminals, but from kings. If your government can own a weapon, you should be able to own it too. Otherwise, the balance of power is lost. You are not free because you vote. You are free because you can say no, with force if necessary. The Second Amendment isn't complicated. It's been complicated on purpose. It is the citizen's last resort against tyranny. It is the right that preserves all others. It is the shield that makes the Constitution more than a dream. It is not a footnote in history, it is the line they cannot cross, shall not be infringed. Thank you for watching. Follow me on X for more foundational history.